What happens when the monsters we fight aren't born from things like radiation, magic, or alien forces, but these monsters are born strictly from human hatred? This is the premise for the graphic novel Bitter Root, published on May the 15th, 2019 by Image Comics, rated M for mature, page count 160. In 1924, during the height of the Harlem Renaissance, the streets are alive with jazz, poetry, and black culture. But lurking in the shadows is a disease far more terrifying than any virus. It's called the Geno. When a human soul becomes utterly consumed by bigotry, malice, and hatred, they physically transform into grotesque, violent monsters. Enter the Sangrier family. Now, they aren't your typical monster hunters. They don't just hunt monsters to destroy them, they hunt monsters to save them. And today I'm going to break down Bitterroot, Volume 1, Family Business, a graphic novel that took the comic book world by storm. It has won multiple Eisner Awards and completely redefined what historical dark fantasy can be. If you're tired of the same old horror tropes, then stick around because this book is a master class in storytelling. The family uses an ancient root based serum passed down through generations in order to purge the hate from a monster, forcing them back into human form. However, there is a twist. The cure is getting harder to make. Why? Because hate in the world is rising. This is 1924, and this is the era of the resurgence of the KKK, systematic segregation, and unfortunately, the aftermath of the Red Summer. And this comic book shows everything visually and does a great job narrating it as well. And as the hate grows, the monsters become stronger and more of them are created, and it is harder and harder to cure. So now it turns like kind of like a classic horror monster into a physical manifestation of a real world disease. The monsters aren't the others, the monsters are us when we let hatred win. Every great monster hunting story needs a great team, right? However, this family is fractured. When volume 1 opens, this family has been devastated by past tragedies, leaving a massive generational divide on how to handle the monster crisis. First, you have Etta, otherwise known as Ma Etta. Now, she is the matriarch of the family. She is the keeper of the traditional roots and the moral compass of the family. Now, she believes fundamentally in redemption. To her, every monster is a soul worth saving. Next up is Belinda. Now, Belinda has excellent fighting skills. However, she often clashes with Ma Etta because Etta believes, well, I want you in the kitchen with me to help mix up the potions and help heal the injured. And let's just say Belinda, well, she doesn't always follow Ma Etta's orders. Then you have Berg. Now, he's a monster of a man and he is very loyal, but he also carries deep emotional trauma. His physical strength is excellent, yet his heart is the most fragile part of the family dynamic. And then you have Cullen. Now, Cullen, he's of the younger generation. He's frustrated, he's cynical, and he looks at the world that hates him and he asked a question, which is very understandable. Why are we risking our lives to cure people? when they hate us, uh, why don't we just kill all the monsters? And then you have Ford. Now, Ford has been estranged from the family, and he believes, you know what, there is no cure for the Janelle. And he would rather see them wiped off the face of the earth. And that is because he suffered some injury during Red Summer, and his parents were also killed during that time period. So he also, like a lot of people in this family, suffer from trauma. Okay, of course, we have to talk about the artwork of Sanford Green and the colors by Rico Renzi. I mean, it is incredible. First of all, the attire with what people are wearing, in my opinion, with some of the characters, it's kind of like 1920s style meets steampunk in a way. And if you look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And as far as the action goes, it doesn't feel stale to me. It's kind of like you can feel every freaking punch. And then when that potion is sprayed, it's like, oh, yeah, you feel it. And the colors. Now, usually when it comes to, I guess, horror comics or horror graphic novels, it's kind of like the same colors, you know, red for the blood, right? Pitch black, some gray in there. So I was actually in shock with the colors that are used here because it's like, okay, neon purple is used and green, and that is something I'm definitely not used to, but I like it, and it also stands out on the comic book shelf. And of course, a huge thank you for the ones that made this novel possible: David, Chuck, Sanford, Rico, and Clayton. Thank you so much for this unique experience, not only in the writing, but in the visuals as well. I mean, this is a graphic novel I will never forget, and I will always come back to it, not only to this volume, but the other volumes as well, for many, many years to come. Thank you so much. And in conclusion, I have to tell you one of the coolest parts of this graphic novel is towards the end of the book because the creators included a section that features essays, quotes, and interviews with actual historians and professors. I'm like, what? Because usually graphic novels or comic books are filled with advertisements and things of that nature, but it's like, whoa, this is unique and absolutely amazing. Because for me, it shows that the creators just aren't using the Harlem Renaissance as some kind of, little cheap backdrop. They are deeply invested in honoring this actual history and giving the entire book kind of like a sense of, not only is it just a graphic novel, but it's also educational value. I guess to me, it acts as kind of like a companion piece to the story. It bridges the gap between the dark fantasy of the monsters that you're reading about, but the terrifying reality of early 20th century history. So it's going to force you to sit with the real world themes of this story as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And before I go, I got to do a shameless plug. Check out my book, The Creeping Things and Other Tales of Madness and Mayhem. You can find my book on Amazon, Lulu, Barnes and Noble, and other platforms as well. And when you purchase it, I hope you enjoy it. I think you will. So until next time, everybody, take care, stay safe, and see you again. Bye.